President Buhari calls for peace in Ethiopia as Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed begins second five-year term.
We encourage all parties to come together in the interest of the unity, progress, and well-being of Ethiopia.
Association of Resident Doctors to resume work Wednesday as members suspend two-month-old industrial action.
South Governors Forum approves regional security outfit.
Council called upon the President and the federal government to uphold the law establishing the Niger Delta Development Commission by appropriately constituting its board.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the renewed onslaught against banditry and kidnapping, plus restoring peace in the southeast.
The recurring challenges of banditry and kidnapping in the northwest geopolitical zone of Nigeria has made the security agencies and political leaders in the affected states to come up with various strategies to deal with the ugly situation. Kingsley?
Now, part of the strategies deployed by the states includes the containment orders that prohibited the sale of petroleum products in jerry cans, closure of major markets, shutdown of telecommunication services, among others.
And although there was hue and cry by residents of the affected areas over the government actions, but reports indicate that the strategies have made tremendous impact on the war against banditry and kidnapping.
Now, reports indicate that some kidnapped kingpins and hundreds of collaborators, suppliers of ammunition, food, petrol, and other services to the bandits have been apprehended during the blockade.
And to ascertain the level of success of the containment measures, the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, undertook a working visit to some of the affected states in the northwest zone of the country to have first-hand information on the great efforts of the governors and security operatives.
The minister had a town hall meeting in Katsina where he said that there was no doubt that the table was turning against the bandits since the introduction of those measures that got the bandits boxed and paving way for the military to step up their kinetic measures.
So how effective are these containment measures? What needs to be done to sustain the onslaught against the bandits? What cooperation is needed to record more successes in the ongoing operations? Well, these are some of the issues we intend to raise with the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture on this subject matter this morning on Good Morning Nigeria. I am Jumwe Yusuf. Thanks so much for joining us.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I joined my colleague Jumai to also welcome you to the program live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, the program today is a double-decker. We shall also discuss how to effectively restore peace in the increasingly troubled southeastern part of the country.
You're welcome back. The Minister of Information and Culture has visited Katsina, Borno and Kebbi states to have first-hand information on the various initiatives being implemented to curb insecurity, especially banditry and kidnapping. Ekene Ndulue put together this report as a backgrounder to begin our conversation on the latest containment measures to deal with insecurity.
For years now, issues of terrorism, banditry, and other violent crimes have been on the increase in the northern part of the country. These crimes have also seen a major threat to education, as over 1,000 school children have reportedly been abducted across the region since the abduction of 276 schoolgirls in Chibok in 2014. The rise of banditry and armed attacks has also severely disrupted means of livelihood and distribution of essential services. To contain these criminal acts, the affected state governments introduced new measures to deal with the situation. The new strategies include suspension of mobile telecommunication services in some local government areas worst hit by the insecurity to cut off informants from communicating with the bandits. Ban on the sale of petrol in jerrycans at filling stations, as well as increased onslaught on the bandits. How effective are these strategies? The Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, recently visited Katsina State to get a first-hand briefing on the security situation and will be speaking to the issues in a moment.
Thank you very much, Ekene Undule, for that backgrounder, and joining us on the studios now to discuss matters arising. From that background, let's welcome the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Honorable Minister, pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay.
Good morning.
Ajia.
All right. Honorable Minister, of course, you were in the Northeast. The Northeast is an older ground, as it were now, for counter-insurgency operations by intelligence and security forces. Northwest has, of course, joined with banditry and kidnapping. But we have seen a number of measures unfolded by state governments, by the security agents themselves. And so we say, welcome back from the front line. What did you see?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kingsley. Thank you, Ajia. Yes, it's true. I was in Katsina just 2 weeks ago, Tuesday, and I was also in Maiduguri, Borno State, about 12 days ago also. My trip to Katsina in the company of about 20 journalists drawn from both the public and the private media gave us a good insight and a first-hand knowledge of what is actually going on in the Northwest, in general, and the Katsina State in particular. You remember that the governor of Katsina State is actually the chairman of the Northwestern Governors Forum. And what we heard, what we learned, it was quite, insightful. To start with, it was supposed to be a consultation with the governor, but it actually turned out to be a mini town hall meeting. Well, we had the governor, we had emirs, we had district, heads, we had all the security chiefs in the state, we had stakeholders and CSOs, and to actually discuss the issue of banditry. And the governor of Katsina State, he didn't spare any. There was no pretense, as far as was concerned, that you see what is today called, what we call banditry today, is nothing but sheer criminality. It has no basis on any religion, any ideology, or any culture whatsoever. In his words, he said, look, we are the same. We speak the same language, we have the same culture, we have the same religion. So if anybody is talking about, banditry in terms of, religious or ethnic, basis, that is, or ideology, that is not true. It's simply sheer criminality. According to him, there are today over 150 camps, led by independent bandits in the forests of Katsina, Zamfara, part of Niger, and Kaduna State. And that bandit did not start yesterday. If I remember him saying very well, he said banditry actually started in about 1891. Now the first recorded, banditry was in 1911, when they snatched 165,000 pounds then. So he actually situated the banditry, the issue of banditry in its proper perspective. For him, banditry started with cattle rustling, accompanied by killings, from what it has now and what is now grown up, into. But I think the good news is that certain measures which the northwestern governors have adopted, especially Katsina, seems to be yielding fruits. In the first instance, they have restricted sale of petroleum products to only 5,000 naira per person. They have cut communication, disrupted communication services in some areas. They have suspended markets. They have banned sale of second-hand motorcycles. They've stopped what we call junction motor parks. And in his own words, the measures are working very well. And if I can quote him, he said, "We're winning the war." He said, for instance, by restricting the sale of petroleum products to just 5,000 naira per person, now there's no more fuel in the forests. And because there's no more fuel in the forest, the movement of the bandits have been restricted. Because of the disruption in telecom services, there are no telephones for informants to give information to the bandits. At the same time, it now becomes more difficult for them to ask for ransom. Another good thing that is happening in the Northwest now is that there's a synergy between all the governors in tackling banditry. And if I remember very well, is the Northwestern governors are now putting hands together to train 3,000 armed volunteers. It will now be, they will hire 3,000 armed volunteers that will now be trained by the police to help in the to complement the efforts of the security. But clearly what is happening is that the measures they've taken is having a lot of positive effects. Now you can see the bandits are now restricted to the forest. They are hungry now and they're looking for refuge.
Indeed, the town hall meeting you had has sort of raised some silent issues, just as the Senate passed a resolution urging the Mr. President to declare bandits as terrorists. So what is the position of the federal government on this? Because if a bandit can shoot an airplane from the sky, he has gone beyond banditry to terrorism. What's the take of the federal government on that?
You see, I think we've been dancing around nomenclature. A criminal is a criminal. Whether it's a bandit or a terrorist, it's a criminal. And the approach of the federal government, especially the military, in treating these criminals is not to make a distinction between bandits or terrorists. The same measures have been meted out to them. And that is why we find it ludicrous, this accusation that the federal government is softer on terrorists and bandits than on separatists and other criminals. It's a fallacy. It's fake news. It's misinformation all rolled into one. And this is the kind of divisive rhetoric that is being, promoted by some naysayers. It does not even make sense for the military to treat bandits with kid gloves. Bandits kill soldiers. They kill policemen as much as Boko Haram does. So really for us in federal government and for the military, we actually make no distinction between bandits and terrorists. They are all criminals. And I've not seen how in the fighting this war, whether through area bombings or through the cooperation between the land and the air, you can't make a distinction between bandits and terrorists. For this federal government does not make that distinction. And the tag bandits, we are not the ones that gave them the tag bandits. Like I explained, bandits have been existing for very long. But make no mistake about it, this government does not treat bandits with kid gloves.
I just wonder, Honorable Minister, from your interaction in the Northwest, what did you glean so that there can be lessons learned? Were there strategic missteps in handling the bandits and kidnappers early on so that they didn't then become the monsters that they now are and the security agents are dealing with? There are two issues I will raise here. I would like you to address them. Well, yeah, we hear the 150 camps where they were located. And of course, that number would have reduced by now because they are being flushed out by the security agents. Those camps were in the so-called ungoverned spaces. Why were those spaces left ungoverned? It's an issue we have taken on Good Morning Nigeria today. So what did you hear when you were in situ? Why were those spaces left ungoverned for the bandits to set up camps?
Kingsley, recall I said banditry started in 1891. Now the first recorded, heist by bandits was 1911. I also said that banditry started with cattle rustling, accompanied by some killings, and it grew to what it grew to today. Yeah. So you're talking about more than 100 years of banditry, Kingsley. A lot must have gone wrong. But the good news to me is that these present governors are learning from the mistakes of the past. And are taking what at first seemed unpopular measures, but these measures are working. Yes, at a point in time, they all thought they could negotiate with these people. But the moment they found out that, the more money you give them, the more ammunition they buy, and that it was criminality. You see, this is different between Boko Haram and banditry. One is driven by ideology, however crazy the ideology may be. The other is just pure criminality. And I remember the governor telling us that so he got a letter from somebody. He said their family, all they've been doing, is banditry, and was advising the government on what to do. So you see, banditry started more than a century ago. How we got to where we got to is not a matter for today. Of course, lack of governance could be contributory to it. But the truth of the matter is that the governors have now found out that you do not negotiate with bandits. Go out, don't spare them, be relentless, in your attack of them. But if we want to go back to what has happened will teach us lessons as to what to do. And that's why I'm glad that some of the measures that we are taking today, such as, the ban on sale of, second cycles is working. Because if you see bandits, one of their most effective weapons are motorcycles. The ban on cattle markets is working because when they rustle cattle, they want to sell it. The disruption of telecom services is working because they can no longer get information from the informers. And and you see, people look at bandits and they think that it's just a mono business. No.
Network.
Look, even bakers all play a role in this. Who supplies them food? Now, so it's more complex than what we see. And that's why I want to, congratulate the governors for the newfound, solution, I would say. Well, you won't wipe it, probably you won't wipe it out overnight, but clearly you will decimate them.
But you know why I raised that issue, Honorable Minister? Because sometimes when you get to hear the way we articulate some national issues, untenable comparisons are made. It's, oh, no, negotiate with them. After all, when the Niger Delta militants were operating, you had to negotiate with them and so on and so forth. But with the clear distinction that you have given, and which ordinarily is the case, this is pure criminality without a cause. So, and then we went on and said, oh, negotiate with them, go and give them money. There were videos all over the place showing alleged government officials handing over money to, I don't know how we could have gone on that route in the first instance.
Ideology.
Precisely.
You see,
Even if you had an ideology and it's injurious to the nation.
Exactly.
Precisely.
You see, Kingsley, when you are a governor, you are under a lot of pressure. Don't forget that these bandits are subjects of the governors themselves too. And like during this meeting we had in Katsina, the emir of Katsina, the emir of Daura, they were all there. People, you see, it's not as if people are ghosts. They live within the community itself. So at a point in time, erroneously, probably you thought you could negotiate with them. Erroneously, because what a governor wants is peace. What a governor wants is good governance. So if an intermediary comes to a governor with a bandit and the bandit says he has repented, blah blah blah, probably you want to believe him. But today, I don't think any of those governors will deal with any bandit on terms of surrender or no surrender. No. If you want to surrender voluntarily. We're not going to negotiate with you. And I think the measures that have been taken today are actually they're actually working. And I think we should be positive about that, and we should give them all the support they need. The governors are working closely with the military and with the police to train more volunteers who will be armed, but will be trained by the police, and they'll complement the efforts of the police.
Just like the civilian JTF?
Something like that, along that line, yes, for bandits.
Are the residents ready and willing to endure more the inconveniences arising from these containment measures?
Well, you are right, it's a lot of inconvenience, but I think overall, even the residents know that the long term is better for them to endure. For instance, if we continue this way, there will be famine. Bandits and Boko Haram terrorists are not allowing people to go to their farms. So I think that even the residents are ready to, bear this, inconvenience for a short term. I don't know which state recently is saying that they can restore, communications in certain local governments. So I'm sure he must have a basis for so doing. Probably he believes that they've overcome the threat in certain areas. But we will continue to look at ways to contain banditry, ways to contain terrorism, and ways to contain all types of security challenges that the country is facing today.
For somebody who has gone through this, containment in Maiduguri for like 6 months without network, no electricity, which they are still facing now, and I know how hard it was to live in an environment like that, because at the end of the day, we were getting letters from family and friends outside Borno. But after 6 months, Boko Haram never went away. It sort of increased. Do you think these measures being taken in these north-west states will be able to contain them, keeping in mind the borders? These states are bordered by other countries, and these bandits can easily go to another country, use the satellite there and communicate. How do you think it's going to work? The way we it's not just on paper, but will it work? How are the citizens accepting the fact that this is for your own good and you need to accept it and work with us to ensure that banditry does not continue in the Northwest?
See, Adia, the first thing to appreciate is that there is a difference between Boko Haram and banditry. One is driven by ideology, however misguided. The other is sheer criminality. But I'm ready to agree with you that in some places, Boko Haram and banditry, they dovetail. Yes. And it's a form of handshake in some areas. Yes, because in some areas, it is the same terrorists that have been flushed out from the northeast that are joining hands with the bandits in, say, probably in the north central. Now, that is why the military does not make a distinction between bandits and military, and bandits, terrorists, in their ferocious attacks against them. Two, you recall that when we were in Maiduguri about 12 days ago, we were there to discuss the effect of the attack on infrastructure, especially power and communication by terrorists. Now, Maiduguri has been without power for more than 8 months. Why? Because the terrorists suddenly found out that the best way to inflict maximum damage on the economy and social life, on the economic and social life of the people, is to make sure that they don't have power, they don't have communication. And that is why at that town hall meeting we had the ministers, the respect of the ministers of communication, minister of power, and we were everybody was quite impressed with the measures being taken, not just to restore power, but also to prevent such attacks in future. Now, you will continue to have this, problem with Boko Haram and bandits working together, as long as the military continues to be relentless in their attacks, and they are flushing them out. This is why you have this temporary, kind of alignment between bandits and Boko Haram. But the good thing is that it never lasts. In Zamfara State, I remember there was a time that some of the leaders of the banditry joined hands with the Boko Haram, but it didn't last, because while one was looking for money and the one was a sheer criminal, the other was an ideologue. And you see, today with the recent acquisition of platforms by the military, especially the Air Force, the heat is on. I'm glad to say that today we've received 10 out of the 12 Super Tucano. We hope that in the next 2 weeks, the other two will arrive and we'll have the 12 Super Tucano. And when they are now launched fully, it will be a game changer. Already we are feeling and we are seeing the effect. So please, banditry on the one hand is sheer criminality. Boko Haram is ideologically driven, however misguided they might be. And if you see any synergy today between Boko Haram and bandits, it's simply because the military is making it, difficult for the terrorists to continue to operate. So they are now being driven, out of the northeast, and that is why they are scattered. And when they now go to the front, they meet bandits, there will be this unholy alliance. But it does not last, because the military is relentless in the pursuit of these criminals.
Honourable Minister, the issue has also been reported of some collaborators in the supply chain for the bandits.
Yes.
So even in Katsina, I mean, some women were arrested with petrol,
Yes.
disguised in travel
Traveling
bags.
Yes.
Some of them have also been arrested with petrol concealed in nylon bags and sacks. The issue was one that we addressed on Good Morning Nigeria during the newspaper review some weeks ago. But one hasn't heard what the state government has done with those persons who were apprehended, or by the civil defense. The civil defense, at one of the videos, picked them up. Because the point is, there is no law enforcement for sabotage efforts against the containment measures. What deterrence might there be?
You see, Kingsley, remember I said banditry is sheer criminality. And criminality is an economy on its own, which involves so many people. The women who make it possible for them to even eat. Those who profit from the black market petrol they sell to them. Those who provide them with arms and ammunition. Those who provide them with information. So those who buy the rustle cattle. It's a whole underground network and economy. And that is why the governments of Northwest, in addition to whatever the military is doing, he said that they are also going to have to recruit 3,000 volunteers just to assist and address this same issue you are talking about. Everybody knows who the bandits are, and this is what one of the takeaways at the Katsina meeting we had, that everybody must join hands with government and report people who are aiding and abetting the bandits. Oh, there's no doubt that bandits thrive because they have accomplices within society, and it's all about money. It's about criminality, it's about money. So yes, we agree that there's the issue of enforceability of these measures, but the fact that the measures themselves make it impossible or difficult for them to purchase motorcycles. Motorcycle is one of their greatest assets. Makes it impossible for them to even exchange information. Make it difficult, not impossible for them to take. Or even when they succeed in kidnapping people, it's a bit more difficult for them now to even ask for ransom. And the fact that the cattle markets have been closed, so if you rustle cattle, what do you want to do with it? I think if we give these measures more time, they'll begin to even yield more positive results. But I agree with you absolutely that everybody must really be his brother's keepers, and we must always must all help government. When we hear something, when you see something, say something.
Let's talk about,
go ahead.
about these collaborators have been arrested. How fast is the prosecution going? Do we need a special court to try these people who aid and abet terrorists and bandits across the country?
Well, there might be need.
Just like we had the tribunals
Yes,
for armed robbery.
you see, there might be need, but you see, I think these things will be decided by the states themselves. They will know the number of people they have arrested. They will know the capacity of the judiciary. So I think we'd rather leave this to the states. But the states, I believe that they feel the heat hardest. And that is why all this accusation of treating bandits with soft hands, it just doesn't make sense.
Should it be left to the states alone because it affects the GDP of the country at large?
Well, I think I'd rather seek advice from the Attorney General of the Federation. But largely, most of these offenses are probably offenses that are prosecuted at the state level. But I think I would rather consult with the Attorney General about this. But the states are alive, I believe, to their responsibilities because they've seen how this banditry has crippled the economy, how it's made it impossible, even at times, for schools to open, how some states have been forced to close schools along the border and the frontier. So the governors are leaving no stone unturned to ensure that banditry is actually, and they are working very closely with the military.
We are discussing, as it were, strictly the Northwest, but there are some curious twists. One aspect of it is pleasant, the other isn't quite pleasant. Kano and Jigawa would appear to be insulated from these incidents. What is it that they are doing right? Kano, of course, is a heavily populated state in the Federation. Jigawa, ordinarily next door to Yobe, and yet insulated from, apparently, from the terrorists. Kano, insulated from the bandits. What is it they are doing right? Or what is it that they may be doing right? Then you come a bit to the North Central. What is happening now in Niger should be worrisome to everybody because it appears to be a cross between bandits on the one hand who have chased off farmers from their farmlands as confirmed by the governor, and Boko Haram elements who are now reported to have taken over some communities in Shiroro. Honourable Minister.
Kingsley, I won't claim to have these answers to your question, but what I believe is happening is when you look at Niger, there's this contiguity between Niger State, especially the forests in Niger State, that links them with Katsina. I think links them also with Kebbi, and I think links them with, I think even Kaduna. Now, and these bandits will be found in these forests. So if there are no forests in your state, the likelihood of banditry will probably be much more reduced. But I really don't, that's one explanation. The other is that, like I told you, I think there's a cultural element to banditry. Some bandits, I've told you, have been operating, like Dan Sadao, local government. I'm told that bandits have been operating there since very early 20th century. Whatever the Kano State and GI State government are doing to ward off, terrorism and ward off banditry, they should continue to do. But I think probably the situations both culturally and in terms of climatic, might not just be the same. But nobody should, nobody can rest on its horse because these bandits and these terrorists, they don't have any boundaries at all. But we want to commend those governors for whatever they are doing, that they are doing right, that they are able to ward off banditry and terrorism. They should continue to do them.
Okay, as you went on these town hall meetings across the states that you've gone, what is your takeaway from these meetings? What is the body language of the people you've spoken to? And how do you think, going forward, we can be able to control banditry and Boko Haram in Nigeria so that the country can move forward? We are looking at an electionary year coming up just around the corner.
You see, like I said in my remarks in Borno State, in Maiduguri, I'm still very impressed with the resilience, determination of the people of Borno State in particular. A decade or more of Boko Haram, you will be amazed at the resoluteness of the average person in Borno State. Look, this is our state. You can drive us out of there. We would fight you. And I think that's what keeps the Borno State going. And of course, there's a lot of measures the governor has taken. One of them, which was fantastic to me, was the issue of Keke Napep. They realized that Keke Napep operators, wittingly or unwittingly, also contribute and to this insurgency. So what the governor did, he didn't ban the Keke Napep, but stopped the importation of Keke Napep and registration of Keke Napep, so that if you have your Keke Napep today, the more you won't have be able to buy a new one. If you buy a new one, you'll be able to register a new one. So gradually, he's phasing out Keke Napep. And only 2 days ago, I heard that there are some vehicles that are
500 vehicles. Yeah.
You see, this is a very to replace the Keke Napep.
Yes,
These are some of the very ingenious
which will be shared
by them. So I have a lot of good words and commendation for the governor of for most of the governors in the Northeast, because they are fighting existentialist wars. And for the governors in the North, like I said, I've been to Katsina. I was in Katsina recently. I was also in Kebbi. And I was really again impressed with Kebbi, even though Kebbi is not always hard about, of course there's an element of banditry in Kebbi also. But what the government is doing, they are assisting the military, giving them, instead of giving them, panel vans. No, they are building tanks, armored tanks for them. So each governor is doing his bit. And if you know the sheer amount of resources that, that goes to these security, security containment, the government would do much better in infrastructural, projects if only they can overcome this security. And this is what many of them are doing. And we must give them a lot of kudos. And the important thing, and another takeaway from the interaction, really in Maiduguri, is the fact that the governor was full of praise for the president, especially the president's decision to help the state by looking into thermal energy and also into gas, so that to resolve the problem of power shortage, the problem of vandalization of power infrastructure. And again, even in Katsina State, you will see determination on the part of the Northwest governors to address this issue. So we must continue to assist them as much as possible.
All right, on that note, we'd like to thank you, the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, for being our guest on Good Morning Nigeria today. Thank you, and see you sometime soon.
Kingsley, thank you very much. And
thank you.
I hope to be here very soon again. Thank you, sir.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be taking on our second topic, which is how to restore peace in the troubled southeast region of the country.